made a decision a few weeks ago. I was reflecting on my plan for my company, Singular, and the resources that I had available to me, and I realized that a key factor in our success would be how much I could develop as a CEO. When you're leading a business, especially one that's small like ours, your impact on the overall result is disproportionate. And that might be obvious, but it also means that your ability to limit the growth of the company is disproportionate too. So I committed that I was going to become the best CEO I could possibly be and figure out an approach to my own development that would enable that. Immediately, though, this raised another question. What did that actually mean? What does great performance as a CEO actually look like? There are obvious things, of course, like profitability, growth, market share, but that's not all that a company is about, and you often can't directly influence those metrics. They're driven by a host of different factors, many of which are complex and take a long time to show their effectiveness. So I struggled with this question for 3 or 4 days because I realized that I couldn't make much progress until I knew where I was heading. Perhaps unsurprisingly, ChatGPT wasn't much help, and nor was Google. In both instances, I found a lot of generic business school answers about operational efficiency and financial management. So eventually, I sat down with my coach and decided to hash out what I think it means to be a great CEO. And this is just what it means for me, though. Your definition might be completely different, and in fact, I'd love to hear where you disagree in the comments below. There is no one way to be a CEO, and you have to perform the role in a way that's authentic to you and aligned with your individual strengths. In my version, though, I ended up with 6 key areas to focus on. First is creating a vision and strategy, and for me, this is job number 1. You can't expect to lead people if you don't know where you're going, and it's the responsibility of the CEO to set that direction. You should absolutely consider the opinion of your leadership team and others across the organization, but it's up to you to chart the course and set the direction. Your vision should go well beyond current objectives, and the best visions are ones that give you an outcome you can never fully achieve. So at Singular, for example, we want to help build as many brilliant companies and careers as possible. And once you have that vision, you need to develop a strategy that allows you to take the first steps. You don't have to know how to get all the way there, but you should have 10-year objectives, 3-year targets, 1-year outcomes, and a 90-day plan that get more and more detailed as the timelines get closer. And depending on the size of the company, you might be more or less involved in the detail of the strategy, but it's still up to you to say, this is where we're going, and these are the 5 key things we're going to focus on to get us there. The second area I identified was leading your people, and this is probably the area that I need to pay the most attention to personally, because it doesn't always come naturally to me. I've worked on it over the years, but I'm a very goal-driven and task-focused person, so I don't need a lot of motivating or looking after, and as a result of that, I sometimes forget that others need connection, relationships, a sense of belonging and a sense of being heard to thrive. But most of the time they do, and although it took me a while, I've realized that as a chief executive, your people are your job, so you must give them the attention they need to thrive. That includes supporting their development and building their careers. Third on my list was executing effectively. So it's all well and good having a vision and strategy, but then you have to go and deliver it. No plan survives contact with the enemy, so things will go wrong, and if you don't measure, check in, chase and adjust, people will set their own priorities and get distracted by shiny things. Once the agenda's set, it's up to you to keep people on track, to remove obstacles to progress, and to maintain everyone's focus on the plan while assessing whether you're on the right path and adjusting course where necessary. It's all in the follow-up, so decide what's important and find out every day where it's at. Then I came to something key, which was making big decisions. And most people are incredibly bad at making decisions, especially big ones. And in fact, I think the majority of people would rather someone else told them what to do in most circumstances, especially when there's significant uncertainty or challenge. Now, as humans, we naturally weigh potential risk much more heavily than potential benefit, and so we operate from a position of minimizing loss rather than maximizing gain, which isn't a viable business strategy. And unfortunately for you and I, when we took that first fateful decision to be a CEO, we forfeited the option to avoid making the decisions that others can't or don't want to make. And it doesn't mean you should make every decision. You need to develop those skills in others too. But on the important stuff, it's up to us to make the call, even when, and maybe especially when, we don't know the right answer. And as our companies grow, we'll probably make less key decisions, but everyone will have a greater impact and carry a greater risk. That's the job, and that's what we signed up for. Crucially, at number 5, I decided that being the cultural champion was crucial. Now, if you've spent any time with my content, you'll know the importance I place on culture. In my eyes, it's the most important thing in your business, and usually the key difference between success and failure. And as the leader of the company, one of your most important jobs is guarding and championing the culture at all costs. And this comes down to a few things, 5 really. First, you have to decide what the culture that you want to create is. Second, bring in other people who align that culture and get rid of people who don't. Third, reward the right behaviors. And fourth, refuse to tolerate the wrong behaviors. And finally, probably most importantly, you must be an ideal role model of the way you want people to act in your business. That doesn't mean being perfect, although you should probably try to get as close as you can. But it does mean being very conscious of how your actions are perceived and apologizing for any times you step out of line. Because it doesn't matter what else you do. If you don't hold yourself to the highest standards, no one else will hold themselves to them. And then finally, staying on a swivel and adapting. Now, if you're doing your job well as a CEO, your company should constantly be progressing and moving into territory you haven't encountered before. And that means you'll always be just beyond the edge of the things you know how to do. So a key skill to develop is the ability to land in an unfamiliar situation, assess where you are and where you need to go, create a plan to get there, and bring the rest of the team along with you. You need to become the business version of Bear Grylls. So there's my definition, 6 key areas of performance for a great CEO. I'll be working on each of these from here on in and sharing as much as I can of what I learn with you. So what have I missed? What would your key areas of focus be?